Am I the a-hole for telling my sister nobody was surprised when her kid said he did not care if she was alive or not? I come from a big family. We are 5 siblings, 2 sets of twins, 50 female my sister, her twin died in utero, 47 male, me and my brother, and 42 female, my other 2 sisters. We're talking about our eldest sibling here. My parents were really careful not to parentify her because they both had the same fate in their own families. They took good care of us, and all of us have fruitful and satisfying careers. The problem is, at least for my sister, they didn't push us there. They encouraged, but they never had expectations. This was a problem for my eldest sister. She always found them lazy and unmotivated, and she limited contact with us after she graduated law school. She has become a very successful lawyer, married to a renowned surgeon, who is my friend from medical school, a really ambitious guy who also has severe OCD, and had his son at age 32 via IVF. It was all planned. After she had her son, my nephew, she started to push him really hard. She tried to make him read at age 2, sent him to piano lessons from age 4, and had one-on-one tutors since 1st grade. He was never allowed free time, and every moment of his life was curated. The only time slot he had was Saturday afternoon, when he would visit my parents, and we always planned events and free time for him. His teenage years were absolute hell. He was forced beyond his capacities by my sister and brother-in-law, and when he was 16, he tried to end himself at the hospital where brother-in-law works by stealing benzos from the nurse counter. After that, he spent a good amount of time in inpatient care, 5 months in the ward, 3 months in a group home, and after that, he asked to stay with me. I'm the only sibling without kids, and I live in a 3-story villa, so he could have the top floor to himself. Brother-in-law had an awakening and divorced my sister after this. He and my nephew had a year of family therapy, and last summer, my nephew moved back in with brother-in-law and decided to pursue medicine. I don't live in the US. Medical school starts directly after high school and lasts 6 years. During that time, my sister really dug in her heels. She blamed us and my brother-in-law for letting him be weak. She said he was alive and had to endure this so he could become resilient and untouchable. She said in court, "I don't care that he feels bad. This is life. You either climb the ladder or you fall down. If he fell down, there is nothing we can do. Life goes on." I've never seen anyone look with such pure anger as the head judge. He said, "You are a very successful lawyer, I'll give you that. But you are a terrible person and a being that can't be called a parent." And then turned to my brother-in-law and said, "You need help, a lot of help." Last January, my sister had a mini stroke, and she genuinely started to reflect on her life, as I heard from my brother, who is the only one of us who still checks in on her. Last week, she tried to reach out to my nephew, but he directly told her he didn't care whether she was alive or not. When she tried to talk to me about it, I briefly said, "What were you expecting, sis?" and ended the call. Now the rest of the family is calling me an a-hole, and they think I should have supported her. Now for the top comments before reading the update. Sounds like your sister was more concerned with molding her son into a perfect image for her own ego than actually being a loving and supportive parent. You did the right thing by not sugarcoating the truth and holding her accountable. Sounds like your sister was so focused on creating the perfect child that she forgot to nurture the human being inside him. Respect to you for standing up for your nephew and calling out your sister's toxic behavior. Not the a-hole. Your family should back off. It's a good thing that your sister's stroke has caused her to re-examine her life, though why she didn't engage in some introspection when a judge presiding over her case called her out on her horribleness eludes me. It may be too late now for her to fix her relationship with her son. If she wants to keep trying, she should seek advice from a professional family reunification counselor. Not the a-hole. She treated parenthood like a boot camp, and now she's shocked the recruit went AWOL. Actions have consequences, even for top-tier lawyers. I do remember how her fellow lawyers talked about her after this, and she was very heavily criticized. I have some high school buddies who are lawyers, and they had very juicy gossip about her. She is one of the lawyers they call Haifisch in German. She is known for her relentless ambition and almost pathological hunger for dominance. Growing up with her as a sibling must have been fun. On a side note, my parents are also the type of people who ask, "So, why is it not 10?" instead of congratulating your 9. And that's the thing that I have sworn to never do with my kids. She did not interact with us much, so I can say she wasn't a big problem for us. She was a problem for our parents, though. I remember her yelling at them for not sending her to the boarding school because they thought it had a really unhealthy school culture. I wonder sometimes if they have sent her to school, she would have woken up way earlier. Mini update the next day. My brother had a talk with her. He laid down all the stuff I told here and made her read this post. To our surprise, she knew about Reddit. When she asked what to do about it, he said she should be working on herself and maybe come to peace with the fact that she will die alone in a care home. He said she looked really defeated, but she got why she was abandoned by the family. She will leave town and transfer her office to another state because, as she told him, it's too much pain for me. Again, an egocentric perspective, but at least she will leave. She's leaving next Monday. My nephew said she wants to look into his eyes one last time before leaving, so he will meet her Saturday afternoon at my brother's house. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my dad's partner she knew he was still married when she started dating him, and I'm not here to make that easier on her? My parents have been married for over 30 years now. I put married in quotes because legally they are married, but they broke up when I, 24 male, was 2. And with that, came living like a kid with divorced parents, even though they were never formally or officially divorced. The reason? They don't want to split their assets in a divorce. They argued over it and almost divorced twice, but always ended the proceedings because neither wanted to lose in the divorce. So they remained legally married and operate day-to-day like divorced people. Both have been in other relationships, and when me and my siblings, 26 male and 27 female, were kids, they split custody of us. It was always kind of crazy because we'd say we had divorced parents when we technically didn't, and on the outside, it looks that way. But when you're close to us, you find out for one reason or another. My mom and dad are both with long-term partners now. Both of the partners have issues with the fact they're still technically married and can't get married themselves. My mom's guy learned fast that me and my siblings didn't want to hear him whining about that. My dad's partner is different. She keeps trying to talk to us about it, and speaking for myself, I have tried to be diplomatic and kind by asking her not to drag me into relationship issues, but she refuses to let it go. She wants to cry about it to us and have us say we hate it for her and offer advice or tell her what to do. It's damn weird since these are our parents she's complaining about. Last weekend, she cornered me at my grandpa's birthday and started unloading her frustration on me about it. In a maybe too harsh way, I told her to stop. I said she knew Dad was still married when she started dating him, and she had to accept that fact because I'm not here to make that easier on her. I said she was driving me crazy and to shut up already. She told me I didn't need to be so uncivil and volatile toward her, and she had a real attitude the rest of the party. Dad asked me about it, and I told him everything that happened, and he acted like I never said anything. Then she texted and demanded an apology. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Her expecting sympathy from the kids is freaking insane, and her not being respectful to keep you out of it is a huge red flag for Dad that he's oblivious to or ignoring. She's chosen to be with him, and he's obviously stonewalled her when she's brought it up with him. Then she either needs to accept it or move on to somebody else. Not the a-hole. You're not her therapist, and unloading on you has absolutely no effect on your parents' marital status. It's just annoying. What does she expect? Does she think she can convince you to think the same way and use you as leverage to convince your dad to go through with the divorce? It's absolutely pointless to complain to you about the situation when you're the one who's lived through it, literally your entire life. Maybe she just wants to vent, but you're not one of her girlfriends. In my opinion, I think she's trying to get the kids on board to push the idea of divorce. Otherwise, why get you involved at all? I definitely wouldn't apologize to her if I were you. We have suspected she might, very wrongly, believe that we could make our parents go through with the divorce. Maybe she thinks if we're on her side and get really close, will advocate for her and get her what she wants. Mom's partner was the same, but he took the very clear hint. I think the best course of action is to set clear boundaries. No more hints. Just lay it out straight. Her relationship with your father, and everything that comes with it, is solely between them, and she needs to stop forcing their relationship hardships onto you. If she continues to break that boundary, then I'd say get your father involved and limit contact with her until she realizes she's not going to get what she wants through you. I don't know if she's doing it intentionally, but it might be out of desperation, at your expense all the same. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my son's girlfriend to stay away from him because she is distracting him from his responsibilities? I, 50 male, am a single father to my son, 15 male. My then girlfriend got addicted to drugs and walked out shortly after he was born. She is no longer in our lives. My son has been making exceptional grades, and he plays for his high school's baseball team. He's pretty good at it, though my opinion may be a little biased lol. Anyway, that was until he started dating a girl, 17 female. They met when they were assigned as partners on a project, and I guess they hit it off pretty fast, because this came out of the blue for me. I picked him up one day, and he just said, "Dad, I have a girlfriend now." I was proud and excited for him, that my son was finally becoming a man. I also had a remedial version of the talk with him. You can never be too careful. They've been dating for the past few months, and they seem very happy together. But my problem is that my son's grades have been slipping. He's been skipping out on chores at the house and missing practices and games. I'm not mad that he is dating. However, that should come after business, school, baseball, etc. So last week I told him that he is no longer allowed to spend time with her unless he gets his act together. He responded, "But Dad, I really like this girl." I told him, "That doesn't matter. If you fail and flunk out of school, I don't want you seeing her, and that's final." He sighed and said, "Fine." I figured that was the end of it. Well, until yesterday. I came back home from the store and found them on the living room couch together. He lied to me and said he would have a friend over to study. My son froze like a deer in headlights. I told him to go to his room, and then I turned to his girlfriend. Now I'll admit that I might have been a little stern, but I told her to get the heck out of my house and stay away from my son. He doesn't need this distraction, and if I ever catch you two together again, it won't be pretty for either of you. Then the waterworks started and she stormed out. I went upstairs to my son, who was already on the phone, telling my mother and my sister, his aunt and grandmother, they've always spoiled him. I took the phone and tried to explain, but I got lectured for being too hard on him. He's just a boy, etc. I'm just trying to keep my son from ruining his life before it even starts. If he fixes his grades and everything else, he can see her again. So I figured it'd be best to get an unbiased third-party opinion. Am I the a-hole? You're the a-hole. You're allowed to be angry. Your son did lie to you and go behind your back. But holy Christ, on a bike? That is no excuse to threaten anyone. You're a 50-year-old man, right? How hard would it have been to, in a calm manner, simply ask your son's girlfriend to leave, and then go and talk to your son about what happened? Your son's girlfriend is not responsible for his actions and choices. Also finally becoming a man? LMAO. This coming from a guy who let his anger get the better of him and threatened a teenage girl? If you know so much about being a man, apologize to your son, and especially to his girlfriend. Yeah, he threatened her until she cried and ran from the home. And he's a corrections officer, and he threatened her. I would be calling his job. I'd be calling the police department. I'd be calling his sergeants or commanding officer and probably the city that he worked in to report him. I just cannot believe in any world someone thought they could yell at a child that's not theirs for something their child probably instigated or neglected to explain. Poor girl was probably terrified. Nowhere in the post does it actually say if she knew the son was supposed to see less of her. He likely didn't even tell her. Then she has this grown man losing control of his emotions like a nutter at her. Edit. Okay, so first, I'd like to thank everyone for taking the time to give me this well-deserved, years-long overdue attitude adjustment. I was an a-hole in this situation, While I was in the right to be worried about my son's academic performance and his responsibilities at home, I'll admit that I let my temper get the best of me, and I acted on impulse with how I handled the situation. I shouldn't have yelled at that girl. After talking to my son, it turns out that he never told her that he wasn't allowed to see her. She didn't know, and I should have gone to my son instead of taking it out on her. My job, plus the past trauma from my ex leaving, are not stresses that I can self-manage anymore. I'm done lying to myself, and I will be looking into therapy soon. My son has invited her over for dinner later this week. I plan to apologize and explain the situation, and I'll try to work with them to have fair rules that will encourage my son to stop slacking off while also allowing him to spend time with her. You get more flies with honey than vinegar, and prohibition will only make my son lie and sneak around, which could lead him to doing dangerous or irresponsible things. I showed my son some of the comments, and he's been laughing his butt off at everyone roasting me. I may post another update this week after dinner, if I remember. Thanks. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not rescheduling my wedding after my sister-in-law was widowed? I, 34, am supposed to get married next month. Now I'm not sure it's going to happen. My fiancé's sister, 35 female, was widowed last month. I've had a front row seat to how it has rocked my soon-to-be in-laws. Everyone has really tried going above and beyond for his sister, making sure she's as comfortable as possible. And I truly can't imagine, You'd probably have to institutionalize me if something happened to my man. My fiancé's mom came to him a few days ago and asked if he would consider postponing the wedding. She said they would cover all the lost money, would help us replan, etc. Apparently, his sister has said there's no way she can attend the wedding, and his mom knew how important it was to him to have her there, so she just wanted to offer an alternative plan. I'm not very sentimental, but my partner is. Our wedding was planned for the 10-year anniversary of when we met. That's something that meant a lot to him, which makes it mean a lot to me too. I'm trying to be sympathetic, but I'm just freaking raging. I can't help it. My emotions aren't allowing me to be objective. I know his mom came to him in good faith, but it makes me so angry to think about this being put on his shoulders a month before our wedding. He was so excited. And now I'm worried that if we don't reschedule, he's just going to be in his head the whole time, feeling guilty and unable to fully enjoy himself. I know his sister is hurting. I'm trying my absolute hardest not to anger the family that is soon to be mine, one that's already mine in a lot of ways. Still, I'm so mad. I'd appreciate some objective point of views. Now for the top comments. Major question. What does your fiancé want? If he wants to postpone, do it. If he wants to elope on the day and have a wedding or reception for family later, do it. If he wants to proceed, do it. Doesn't seem like you care either way, so it shouldn't be just your decision. Good point. Y'all can elope and reschedule the wedding for everyone else. Y'all can invite family if you want, and of course anyone important to you friend-wise. Then have the bigger event later on. This is exactly what my wife and I did. We wanted a specific date as our anniversary, but it wasn't a good season for either of our families to attend, as they're all long distances from us. We each had a close friend as a witness, and eloped. Later, we had a reception with both families and plenty of friends. Best of both worlds in my opinion. Sorry you're going through all of this, OP. Best of luck. Please consider there aren't just your costs. There's also the cost for each guest to travel, time taken off of work, hotels, flights, cars. Depending on the size of your wedding, the cost to change dates could be significant for each of your guests as well. Some guests might have already purchased non-refundable tickets, hotel reservations, deposits for caterers, venues, already printed invitations. I doubt that your in-laws have any idea of the cost involved. Your sister-in-law not wanting to attend is understandable, but she can't expect everyone to put their lives on hold while she processes her grief. I mean, as someone that has been a young widow, honestly, having the distraction of my sister's wedding not long afterward was really good for me and our kids. They made a table of pictures for all those they wished could have been there if they was still earthside. It included our grandparents, some of my sister's spouse's family, and my recently deceased spouse and my oldest son's father, who had also passed years before. It was absolutely lovely and made it feel like they were a part of the ceremony and the rest of the day. I'm so glad my sister and her spouse did what they did to honor those we all loved but couldn't be in attendance.